A while back, I was watching an interview of Chris Nolan, who was describing the many challenges involved in creating a film. He's responsible for many of our favorite films, from The Dark Knight to Interstellar, The Prestige. And he said something in that interview that has stuck with me to this day. He said that filmmaking is so incredibly challenging and difficult and taxing. For it to be worth all that effort, you have to believe the project you are working on is going to be the greatest project ever made. Now, of course, he admitted that few projects, even his own, will hit that mark, but it is true. There's no sugarcoating it. Filmmaking is very difficult. And if you don't have a deep conviction in what you're working on, chances are it's not going to turn out well. Ultimately, our mission is to help you create content that stands the test of time. We're not chasing trends. We're not trying to help you get more likes on social media. We are optimized for helping you create your very best content. Unlike other platforms, all of our music and sound effects and visual assets are made by our own creative team and kind of built around our own convictions. LD is not the largest platform, but it is a goldmine of really exceptional creative assets that you won't find anywhere else. So I want to walk you through how you can get the most value from everything that we offer. And we're going to start by looking at music. So the first thing you'll notice when you land on the music page is that we have a lot of albums. And the reason we love focusing on albums is that each one is basically an opportunity for us to create a little world. Each one is built around a concept or a tone or a color or a bit of a narrative arc. Each album allows us to give you all different parts of a story, from the intriguing openings to the exciting parts, to the fun to edit to parts, to the understated storytelling parts, to the tracks that have those really larger than life, satisfying big parts. Most of our albums kind of cover a lot of those bases. And if you're building a project that needs multiple tracks, pulling them from the same album can give you a great deal of cohesion and structure, and it's really useful. Now, if you're not sure which album to start with, you can always start looking for, a great single track by browsing our moods. We have aspirational music, which is a bit more soul-stirring. We've got some chill music that's great for, interviews or projects that have talking heads. We have confident music. This is fantastic for like product trailers or anything that needs to really have that feeling of confidence. It's not always huge. Sometimes it's really understated, but it's kind of hard to describe. But when you hear it, you know it. We've got driven music that's fantastic for maybe your next show reel or maybe an athletic commercial. Now, another handy little filter is the track type filter. This allows you to sort by prominent music. This is music that you might want to edit to, like a trailer, or let's say you want to cut a sequence to kind of follow the arc of a song. Prominent music is excellent for that. But also we have background music. If you just need something that sets the tone, something that you can just drop underneath part of your video or underneath an interview, the background music is perfect for that. Another thing that we're very much optimized for is helping you find tracks that are in the same key. If you're using multiple tracks in your video, it is going to feel way more cohesive if you are using music that's all in the same key signature. And so if you dive into the advanced filter, you can easily sort by key. A lot of people don't do that, but you should definitely do that. It will make your project so much better. All right, so let's dive into the confident mood. And, if you hover over any track, you'll notice that we have little highlights on each track. And these highlights are basically the unique, interesting parts of each song. They're not chosen by AI or some algorithm. Every single highlight is chosen by our creative team. We wrote all this music and we know the good parts. So we hope that's useful. You can also navigate highlights by using your right and left arrow keys on your keyboard. If you open up these tracks, you'll notice that we offer alt mixes on all tracks, which is really handy if you're trying to find just the right song. We also offer stems on many of our tracks. This gives you a ton more flexibility when trying to tailor a track to your specific needs. We also offer sound effects pairings on all of our tracks, and these are absolute lifesavers sometimes. When you're trying to cut down a track to be a specific length and you need to have a solid ending, but you may not have the right note to end it on, that's what these are for. They're not only in the same key as the song, but they also tend to share the same color and tone as the song, so they really work well. One more thing, if you're ever needing to share a track with a friend, you can just right-click on any track and very quickly get a link to that spot, or you can just share the track directly from the dropdown. Okay, let's look at sound effects now. One of the first things you'll notice is that our sound effects are very focused. Unlike other platforms that offer every kind of sound imaginable, from cartoon bells and whistles to keys jingling, we're very much focused on sounds that you won't find anywhere else. Back in the olden days of Lens Distortions, many years ago, we would build out these elaborate company trailers that had tons of sound design, dozens and dozens and dozens of sound effects. And people always asked us, how to do that. And we told them, well, it's a lot of work. Well, eventually we realized maybe we can make that a little bit easier. And so we built out a concept called sound design tracks. And sound design tracks are single tracks that you can edit to like music, but they're entirely sound design. And they are extremely interesting. One quick tip is if you open up any individual sound design track, you can also find individual stems. And this can be a really great place to find even more unique sounds that have a lot of energy. And you can grab the specific ones out of these sound design tracks. Now you can also dive into our bigger sound effects libraries. Our sound effects libraries offer more traditional things like hits and risers and whooshes. Now for these type of assets, every sound effect also includes variations. And these variations can be extremely useful if you really need that sound to gel with your project a little bit better. You can also find some really useful stuff in our atmospheres and our undertones. A lot of times, if you're just trying to build out a little world, you don't need a lot. And really subtle, unique stuff that's high quality can really go a long ways to kind of sell the idea. Again, don't be afraid to dive into the key signature filter to find sound effects that are in the same key as your music. It'll make your project feel way more cohesive. Okay, so before we dive into color, I need to ask you, have you ever been watching an old, low-budget film and you're really getting invested in the story, and somewhere along the line you notice a boom pole or a light stand in the background, and it completely takes you out of the story? Well, that is exactly what bad color does to your project. If you're editing a project that has a lot of different shots, and some of those shots don't quite visually match the other one, you're basically telling your audience that this world is not real. Because in the real world, things do match. So that's why we created finishing LUTs. Finishing LUTs are probably the most subtle LUTs you've ever seen, but they're very dynamic underneath the hood, and they're really designed to help rein in certain parts of the color spectrum of your footage around certain types of styles. So once you've got your base grade done on your timeline, just apply a finishing LUT and you'll have your new signature look. Every single shot on our website is graded with our LUTs. All of our trailers graded with our LUTs. We have our favorites. Enclave is one of my new favorites right now. Of course, Earthy Monochrome is another, and dark monochrome another one of my favorites. But these are extremely popular. And again, this is a major theme in everything that we do, is that we want to help you create cohesion across everything in your project, from your music to your sound design to your visuals. It needs to gel. And when you get it all from a single source like Lens Distortions, it's going to really set your work apart. Okay, so next, let's look at VFX. Now, this is where it all began for Lens Distortions. That's where we get our name. Many years ago, we set out to try to create the most beautiful glass effects. We wanted to emulate the look of refracting light in front of your lens, distorting the lens, lens distortions. And so we set out to do that. And as soon as we started diving into that project, we were discovering some unbelievably beautiful results. And the very first product we made kind of went viral, and people all over the world started downloading it and using it in huge projects. And today, our visual overlays have been used in almost every big project you can imagine. Our light hits are definitely the most beautiful lens flares in the world. And they're not just beautiful, they are extremely useful. I've seen many other platforms try to copy us, and they just splash some flashlights in some lenses and hope that it works. And all of our light hits were very much created from the perspective of giving editors exactly the ingredients they need to punctuate edits and to be versatile across many different types of scenarios. So, as with all of our assets, we put so much intentionality into everything that we offer. But even our VFX assets are incredibly thoughtfully executed. And that just makes them all the more easy to use. Don't be afraid to dive into our snow pack. It's one of my favorite packs personally, because you can just sprinkle it on almost anything and it works. You can color grade it to look like little fire embers. I've made it look like dust before. We also have dust, which is really nice as well. So if there's a common theme that runs through our brand, it's that we care very much about cohesion. And we want to help you achieve that in all of your projects. From the music, to the sound effects, to the color, to any visual assets. We want all those things to be unified so that you can create an experience that your audience gets lost in. Okay, so that's it for now. I hope that you find lots of useful stuff on our website. Just keep digging in there. There's a ton of stuff. It is an absolute goldmine. And definitely keep us in the loop on your projects. We love seeing what you guys are working on. So keep in touch with us.